Starting off this countdown, we have the Blue Leaks. In June of 2020, following the killing of George Floyd and the protests, Anonymous leaked hundreds of gigabytes of law enforcement files. It has been named the Blue Leaks. Over 269 gigabytes of data were taken from over 200 law enforcement agencies. This included emails, audio recordings, videos, and documents. In total, there were millions of files leaked. Some of the leaked documents show that the FBI was monitoring the social media accounts of protesters, and they were also alerting local law enforcement about anti-police messages. Other documents showed that the FBI was tracking Bitcoin donations to protest groups, as well as highlighted some scandals and police misconduct.
Number 9, hide your bread. Putting your money in your mattress sounds a lot easier than this system, that's for sure. Way less complicated too. Back in 2016, journalists all over the world were looking into what's called the Panama Papers, a plethora of leaked documents. Now these all came from a law firm, Mossack Fonseca. The operation here was that the firm would help the super rich hide their money in these offshore tax havens. And before you ask, yes, they got caught and this whole thing was of course shut down. In total, there were 140 politicians from 50 countries who were all busted, including the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Iceland's former Prime Minister Sigmundur David Gunnlaugsson. Yeah, y'all guilty. And we found out. Just be rich. Just be rich and do the things you have to do when you're rich. Don't hide your money. Number 8, SIM cards. In February 2015, it was reported that Snowden, our good boy Edward Snowden, he provided documents that showed that the NSA and the GCHQ had all hacked into a Dutch company that is responsible for manufacturing and supplying 2 billion SIM cards per year to big names. Names like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, you're probably paying for some of these, you name it, right? While this hack would suggest that the agencies would then now have access to billions of unique encryption keys, which could potentially allow them to bypass wireless providers and monitor both the voice and data transmissions of every user, i.e. us, the company had actually been the target of at least 2 sophisticated intrusions, and they believed that the NSA and juicy headquarters, GCHQ, were all responsible, but the company then denied that the hack was successful in gaining access to all these encryption keys. Yeah, no, just the dirty text, nothing else. We're good though. Let's just hope that's the case. I mean, honestly, I'm deleting my history anyways, just to be safe. Number 7, military dolphins. Yeah, I said military dolphins. We're gonna get weird now, I guess. Iran has plenty of nuclear capabilities, but they also have trained dolphins now too, so good game. Back in 2000, Iran bought this fleet of trained dolphins from Russia, just, you know, Russians doing Russian things, but they were trained supposedly by the Soviet Union to attack ships, and yes, even people. We have Navy SEALs and military dolphins. This is it, behind the scenes for Aquaman 2, I guess. What's going on here? Well, recently, like 2018 recent, satellite photos revealed a Russian naval base in Syria with pens that are commonly used for holding, you guessed it, dolphins. Yep, the dolphins are back. Ooh. Russia and the US both have fleets of trained dolphins to detect mines, but now Iran's in the mix as well. Is the next world war gonna be dolphins? That would be loud. Number 6, secret iPods. Nowadays it feels like there's a new iPhone or a new iGadget every other day. Technology is evolving a little too fast, I'd say. VR? Not for me, I'm not ready. My body was not ready for that. Music is also personal. Spotify, way too personal. But have you heard of Apple's top secret iPod? Would you get one of these? I'd pre-order it, let's do it. Back in 2005, former Apple software engineer David Shayer revealed that the tech giant once partnered up with the US Department of Energy. This special iPod was designed to test radiation on the go without drawing any attention from the public. Yeah, imagine this thing in an Apple commercial. Just dancing silhouettes, having a good time, and then just one guy suspiciously in the background like listening to music. This was of course top secret information back in the day, but Apple secretly helping the government by putting a Geiger counter in an iPod for a spy, it's next level, that's shady. We're gonna talk about that on this list for sure. Number 5, catfish. I mentioned bird drones in part 2, so obviously I gotta mention robot android catfish. Yep, you didn't believe them, they've arrived. What are we gonna do now, folks? The general public found out about this hidden spectacle in 2020. Catfish robots, specifically one named Charlie. Yes, it has a name. It isn't like the rest of the fish in school, okay? This one's actually an undercover agent working for the CIA, so he's a different fish. This all initially happened back in the 90s when the CIA was trying to collect water samples, obviously in secret, so they would send Charlie Chaplips upstream by using wireless communications. That was their high-tech, that was their James Bond plan, believe it or not. And yes, this was high-tech stuff at the time, all hidden inside the 60cm long catfish. Sometimes spy tech is cool, you know, like a secret iPod, that's neat, we like that. This was not one of them. I don't think Charlie will make an appearance in the next Mission Impossible movie, you know what I mean? I don't think Tom Cruise is gonna send up a robotic fish. Number 4, caller ID. Back to our boy Snowden for this one, of course. He's so good, how can we not talk about him? The king of leaks, besides Sony, obviously. In 2013, it was revealed by The Guardian that, according to the documents that were leaked by Snowden, the Obama administration allowed the NSA to collect different caller information from Verizon. Yeah, this was done through what's called a business records proposition of the Patriot Act that was established under the presidency of one George W. Bush. So, this allowed the government to order Verizon to hand over caller information every single day. Yeah, all those breakups, all those prank calls, give them here. This information included things like the time, location, and the duration of your calls. The information also began being collected under the Bush administration in 2001, and they were collected from AT&T, Verizon, and Bell South. Now, of course, once these documents were leaked to the public and this information was, widely spread, US officials began trying to reassure the public that this surveillance was somehow necessary and was actually a program vital to national security. Yeah, no worries, guys. We have to do it. We're trying to help you, Help us help you by showing us your text messages. But many people, like you're probably thinking right now, thought that the spying was unnecessary and it was an invasion of their privacy. I have to agree. Number 3, more documents. I mentioned earlier those offshore accounts for those higher-ups, those big bad boys. Well, a year later, after that 2016 scandal, even more documents were exposed. All the docs, all around the clock. Docs around the clock. Didn't even script that, that's how good I am. Docs around the clock, we can franchise that. Meaning, even more secrets, even more names. Spill the tea, who is it this time? Well, amongst the 13 million documents, we saw Nike and Apple. Yeah, they're shady, who knew? They had around $250 billion hidden in offshore accounts. On top of that, there were financial connections to the literal Queen of England and Justin Trudeau. Yeah, our Canadian lad. We got mad at him a lot for going to his cottage the last few years. Meanwhile, we forgot he's in some offshore accounts. There you go, some more juice to get mad at him about. Number 2, Project DISHFIRE. This one sounds calming. Project DISHFIRE. Sounds like the best detergent you can get. It was reported by The Guardian that the NSA collects 200 million text messages a day from around the world. Yeah, I'm just exposing all of your secret texts for this one. I was really coming for you. I bet half of these texts literally just say, "You up?" The government's like, damn it, we'll try again tomorrow. They would then use these messages to pull the details of its user. Location, time, contact information, and credit card details. Stuff you don't want out there to anybody, especially people wearing dress shirts. Ugh, the worst. It was also reported that the NSA also provided British intelligence agencies with all of that data, just without the actual context of the text messages, that's comforting. Basically, they have all this data, and at any point they could extract anything they wanted, like older purchases, past travel plans, past financial transactions, all your contacts, regardless of whether or not you're being investigated for anything at all, just because they feel like it. Yes, this sounds illegal, unethical, and quite shady, and it really was. All this happened right before former President Barack Obama gave a speech about proposed policy changes in response to the Snowden leak, so the timing couldn't be more crucial. And finally, number 1, VX gas. The government using gas to take out targets. What is this, Mission Impossible? This is scary. I won't be able to sleep after this. What am I writing? VX gas is tasteless and it's odorless. It can take you out just by skin contact alone. The nerve agent VX is of course extremely illegal as well, obviously. It came from ICIS research from the early 50s when developing new insecticides. And it worked, a little too well I'd say, and it was swiftly and thankfully outlawed. But the bell can't be unrung now, can it be? This was the same nerve gas that was used to take out Kim Jong-nam back in 2017. That was a new revelation we discovered. We're like, oh, it was this gas. That's terrifying. Yeah, he was attacked at an airport. 2 people rubbed a cloth on his face, that's all it took. It was covered in VX, and then he died on the way to the hospital. He had a seizure. How scary is that? Initially, officials thought cyanide was used here, but in reality, it was only 10 milligrams of VX. So far, that's the only confirmed case of VX being used to take somebody out. Again, the only one we know so far, so sleep in fear, that's all I'm saying. Kicking off the list at number 10, an open field. Coming from a user named Ursa Lee Minor, who at the end of the story reinforces the fact that they're not religious. This isn't a medical versus spiritual debate, this is just their experience, so I figured I'd lead with that, as that's the case for most of these stories. But this user claims to have seen the other side after being admitted to an ICU. They saw this field with trees on both sides and then water right at the end of it. Like those fields with the electrical lines that run through with no houses, no residents. It's calm, but it's a long clear area surrounded by trees. But in the center there was a very large oak tree and it had this massive presence, and it told them, the tree told them, that they were not done living yet and should return back to life. But they reminded this figure that they were very sick in real life and that this seemed like a nice place. The forest, they note, felt dark and scary though, those trees on both sides. It felt like a place they didn't want to go, only towards the water. And then they saw a bright light and woke up in the ICU. Again, they don't want a religious debate or anything, that's just their experience. Forest bad, water good. Duly noted.
In our 9th spot, we have Trump's dirty laundry, and I don't mean like literally his stinky socks and undies. In May of 2020, Anonymous came after Trump during his presidency. This happened when Trump threatened to deploy his military force against the protesters. But Anonymous was like, nah, honey, you aren't doing that, and said they had dirt on him. They said that they would publish his dirty laundry. A couple of days later, they published 169 emails that mentioned Trump one way or another. Now, most of the emails weren't even bad, but it was just a scare tactic to show Trump, like, hey, we're not bluffing, okay? We got dirt on you. More on this in my next point. Coming in at number 8, we have Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein. So like I said, Anonymous leaked some emails about Trump. Well, they also threatened to release information connecting Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Trump and Epstein have been photographed together on a number of occasions. Apparently, they also have hung out with each other too. Some believe that Trump was a part of Epstein's ring and also exploited young females. And Anonymous apparently has proof, including access to Epstein's address book and old court documents. Technically, I'm cheating with this point since they didn't leak this information, but they did expose that they have this information. In our 7th spot, we have the Brazilian government. In June of 2020, Anonymous released personal information on the Brazilian president and his family and cabinet. This caused a lot of chaos. The federal police and the Brazilian Congress began to investigate. In the end, it was revealed that the federal government used $2 million of the public's money to fund advertising on several websites. Most of the websites supported the president, which makes sense as to why they wanted to put money into them. Not only that, but Anonymous leaked a number of government officials' addresses, income, and other personal information. The personal addresses were a very serious issue because it puts them at risk for attacks. Moving on, at number 6, we have CSIS documents. So what I didn't know is that apparently Anonymous has some beef with the Canadian government. One of their first attacks leaked secrets about the foreign activities of the Canadian Secret Intelligence Service, aka the CSIS. It released information about the size of their network, what information they have access to, along with other sensitive government documents. The Canadian government has only admitted to having foreign stations in Washington, London, and Paris. But according to the documents leaked, they have over 25 foreign stations. And I quote, many of which are located in developing countries and/or unstable environments. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the secret federal document. In another attack against Canada, Anonymous leaked top secret documents outlining the redevelopment of Canada's key diplomatic centers in Britain, including selling, relocating, and refurbishing Canada's diplomatic buildings in London. Now, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's the fact that they got a hold of these top secret documents that's concerning. The documents were marked as confidence of the Queen's Privy Council, which basically means that it's top secret and private documents. Therefore, the government of Canada is looking into its own people to see if someone among them is leaking these documents to Anonymous, or maybe they're a part of Anonymous. In our 4th spot, we have the #OpsWakeUp21. In January of 2021, Anonymous attacked the government of Malaysia. They defaced 17 government and university websites. This was part of their campaign called #OpsWakeUp21. Basically, the purpose of this campaign was to highlight the poor security of the government's websites and to warn people about it. In a post, they said, and I quote, Greetings, we are Anonymous Malaysia. This is message to Government Malaysia. Your security system is low. All data may be leaked. This can cause unwanted hackers selling all your information. Basically, they accuse the government for keeping silent and covering up a number of data breaches that occurred over the years. The government knew that personal information of their citizens was being obtained and sold, and they just kinda covered it up until Anonymous exposed them. Coming in at number 3, we have Anonymous Malaysia Part 2. During the Anonymous Malaysia attack, they also revealed that Facebook was selling private information to government agencies. In a post, Anonymous said, and I quote, "If you're a hacktivist willing to, or a man who just wants to protect his freedom of information and join the cause, and kill Facebook for your own privacy. Facebook has sold information to government agencies and gave secret access to information security firms so they can spy on people from around the world. You can't hide from reality where you are. You're neither safe from any government. Someday you'll look back on this and realize what we've done here is right. You'll thank the internet government. We will not harm you, but we will save you." Okay guys, it is time to deactivate Facebook. Nice. Coming in at number 2, we have Epic. In September of 2021, Anonymous leaked data from Epic, which is basically a domain registrar and a web hosting company that has provided service to websites that publish neo-Nazi and extremist content. It's a pretty controversial platform, and Anonymous leaked details of every domain that was ever hosted or registered through them. It also leaked a number of personal information of their customers, like their purchase records, emails, invoices, and credit card information. Over 15 million email addresses were exposed. In fact, they released 3 rounds of data on their website. The first was in February of 2021, the second in September, and the third in October. In October, they actually leaked information on documents belonging to the Texas Republican Party. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the NSA. So thanks to Edward Snowden, we all know that the NSA was spying on Americans through their phone records. Well, Anonymous just exposed the existence of a secret NSA and FBI program called PRISM. This program allows the NSA and FBI to take photos, videos, emails, and chats from the servers of 9 different internet companies, including Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and Apple. Anonymous leaked 13 huge documents about this program, and it revealed that the NSA is not only spying on Americans, but also citizens of over 35 different countries as well. Anonymous said, and I quote, "We bring this to you so that you know just how little rights you have. Your privacy and freedoms are slowly being taken away from you in closed-doors meetings, in laws buried in bills, and by people who are supposed to be protecting you."
Number 10, spy tools. Back in August 2016, a group named the Shadow Brokers were the talk of the town. How could you not be with a name like that? That name makes them sound like a comic book villain. The Shadow Brokers? What? But check this out. The Shadow Brokers would basically steal cyber weapons from an NSA hacking unit and then proceed to sell them online to the highest bidder. The Shadow Brokers. I can't lie, it's a pretty sick name. The intentions, however, not so rad, not so radical. These tools have been used by many countries and many schemes. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, you name it. These cyber attacks are also no joke. Once the entire city of Baltimore was under quite the cyber attack. I swear to God, the entire city. The 2019 ransomware cyber attack, all connected to said Shadow Brokers. Yeah, whoever this mysterious group is still remains a mystery. Is it you? If so, click thumbs up on this video.
In our number 9 spot today, we have Fields of Gold. This story comes from a Reddit thread in which the original poster asked the question of what those who had died and been resuscitated remembered seeing. A Reddit user replied to the thread and explained a story that their mom had told them about when her heart stopped during surgery. Their mom thankfully was brought back, and when she recovered enough and woke up from surgery, she later explained that all she remembered was being in a field of flowers. So here I am, hearing that, thinking of the Wizard of Oz, everyone's just skipping down the yellow brick road, but as it turns out, maybe it's absolutely nothing like that. There was one Redditor who commented on this story with a hot take that kind of made me feel a little uneasy about the whole thing. They explained how it makes sense that a field of flowers is traditionally a more calming image, but that it feels odd to them. A little unnerving and empty, totally devoid of any other people. I'm not gonna lie, that does sound quite eerie, but I'm sure for some of you watching this video that truly sounds like heaven.
Number 8. A life lesson. This next one comes from a user named Harry and Lana. One semester they had a class where this man came in to explain his near-death experience. What a powerful class. Our only guests would be like, people who wrote one poem 10 years ago. You're like, great, I'm gonna fall asleep in this class. This man was kayaking with a friend. He ended up flipping his kayak over, then he got sucked under by the current. His friend had to watch him pass out underwater and get dragged down the river. Just a nightmare of a scene, but during his time unconscious, the man described this dark place almost as if it was a cave, but the walls were soft and velvet-like. At the end of this cave, there was a plethora of colors. He described it as a kaleidoscope, one would say, or a stained glass window. Either way, it was beautiful. But he saw these dark figures passing by on the other side of this glass. Moments after one of the most frightening experiences of his life, he said he felt comfort and peace. He felt like God wanted him to be there, but he also said that you must have to be pretty terrible to go to hell because he himself wasn't the greatest of guys before this accident. His friend caught up to his body, luckily, and he was able to revive him, but now this man feels a stronger connection with everybody and he's grateful to have had this experience. This user finishes the story saying that they hope this was calming to hear, as other encounters are quite scary. Yeah, it was calming, thank you, and also we're glad that you're alive. Sweet.
In our number 7 spot today we have the gates of hell. Veronica Ulrich Barthel was 22 years old in 1981, and that is when she was struck by lightning while she was driving. I always thought that that was impossible, but turns out everyone just lied to me as a kid. But I'll unpack that later, I guess. When she got struck by lightning, she began having an out-of-body experience. She said she could see herself holding the steering wheel with burned hands, which sounds absolutely terrifying. She then said she went on a journey through a tunnel, which led her to be standing in front of a gate that read, "Welcome to Hell." Yeah, okay, I thought the burned hands were bad, but this might be worse. She then explains that she was brought to a waiting room, which sounds a lot like hell, and that she could see people suffering in torment, and I was like, yeah, we've all been in a waiting room before, we get it. She then said that she met someone who she presumed to be Jesus, but who really knows? Whoever this mystery man was, he sent her back to her body. When she came back into the physical world, apparently all she could do was scream, "I was dead and in hell," over and over and over again.
Number 6. Annabel Beam. At just age 4, Annabel Beam was diagnosed with 2 life-threatening digestive disorders, and by the time she was 8 years old, she was struggling quite a bit. She was sitting in a tree just thinking about life. She was up high, maybe 30 feet up, but all of a sudden the branch that she was sitting on broke and she fell down into a hollow part of the base of the tree. She was stuck there for 6 hours, but during that time, she said that she died and went to heaven. They actually made a movie about this. It came out in 2016 with Jennifer Gardner. It's called Miracles from Heaven. Fun fact, when I worked at a movie theater that year, I actually had to assemble the tree of life in the front lobby. It was a rough morning, a lot of leaves, but you know what, great film, go check it out. But the story is wild, it's a real story, and after she fell, she was all of a sudden with Jesus, with J-Lord himself. And Jesus told her that after the firefighters got her out, she won't be sick anymore, and that she has plans to fulfill here on earth. When she did wake up later, she was indeed no longer sick, and her mother wrote the book Miracles from Heaven.
In our number 5 spot today we have poor Michelangelo. This is another Reddit story that pertains to an experience someone's mom had. The Redditor explained that their mom had a brain aneurysm that was nearly fatal. There was a point where the doctors were telling the Redditor that their mom likely wasn't going to make it, but thankfully by some miracle their mother was able to make a full recovery. She later told the Redditor that after experiencing several hours of pain, she eventually just felt total peace, lightness, and relaxed happiness. This is super nice, which is why I had to include it, but it's actually not what I want to talk about today. The super crazy part about this is that the first words that the Redditor's mother spoke to them when she awoke were, quote, "Isn't it so sad about Michelangelo?" Yes, I was also confused at first, but later in the thread, the Redditor cleared up what she meant. Keep in mind that prior to this terrible incident, their mother never had any interest in art, or Michelangelo for that matter. It turns out, however, that once she awoke, whatever happened or wherever she went, she was given the impression that Michelangelo was essentially treated really terribly and was put under some pretty awful conditions for the 4 years that it took him to paint the Sistine Chapel. The Redditor said that it was so out of character at the time that it was quite concerning, which totally makes sense, but now I'm just wondering if this information is actually true.
Number 4. Stay or go. Coming from user Zana Vinovovich, this account takes us back to 1986. Her mother was put under for C-section, and at that time they were in Italy and not citizens, so she also chose to not have a sonogram to determine the sex. So she was put under, and then next you know, doctors are performing CPR chest compressions on her. What is happening? Her mother said that while she was out of it, despite what was happening in real time, she felt also at peace. She was calm and in a very comforting place. She didn't hear a voice or see a tree figure or Jesus, but she felt like she could go either way. She could stay or go. She recalls speaking to this presence that she felt, and she explained how she couldn't go because she had 3 girls to take care of, but at this point she didn't have the 3rd child yet. Interesting. Now cut to 23 years later, she's fine, everybody's fine, but that experience has made an impact on her, of course. So when she told her father about what had happened when she was under, he even said that he himself had a similar experience when he suffered a heart attack.
In our number 3 spot today, we have 45 years. In 1943, Dr. George Ritchie died of pneumonia, but after 9 long minutes, he came back and was sure to tell the tale of what happened while he was gone. He went on to write a book called Return from Tomorrow and My Life After Dying. He recounts a lot of stuff in this book, from an out-of-body experience to meeting people, but the last thing he remembered was meeting someone who he calls God, although it might have been Jesus, or neither. Either way, whoever he met left him with a mental message that told him, quote, "It is left to humanity which direction they shall choose. I came to this planet to show you through the life I led how to love. Without our Father you can do nothing, neither could I. I showed you this. You have 45 years. When he came back to his body, he explained that his throat was on fire and that he felt weight on his chest that was crushing to him. I'm not exactly sure what this message was supposed to mean. I mean, mostly the whole 45 years thing. Dr. Ritchie passed away in 2007, which was almost 64 years after his near-death experience, but whatever this message was intended to mean, that was probably the coolest and most terrifying experience in the whole world.
Number 2. A long nap. These encounters have a similar comforting theme almost, that in the end, one way or another, there's a good chance whatever you believe in, whatever lies beyond is peaceful. This next one gave me comfort, and it comes from a user named Apple Pasta, also great name. They recall being in a coma after a car accident, and they were legally dead for around 2 minutes. Everybody kept asking them what it was like afterwards, which also don't do that, it's pretty rude. Wait till they're ready to talk about it. And their response was always the same. It was the exact same as sleeping. They don't have much memory of it, but the coma, as a whole, they remember this time where everything felt slow and everything was foggy around them. They also felt like their memory of the event is slowly starting to change over time. Maybe they're convincing themselves what they thought happened, but one thing that they're sure of is the feeling that they had, and that the experience has made them unafraid of death, and at the end of the day, dying is just like a long nap. And man, do I love a long nap. I love that last line, man, do I love a long nap, because we do too. Thank you for sharing, Apple Pasta. Sorry about your accident, and we're glad you're okay.
In our number 1 spot today, we have Serenity. This story comes from Reddit, and I thought it might be a good note to end off on because although it is a little eerie, there's something comforting about it as well. The Redditor explained that their grandma was a nurse for her whole life and that during her time she had only ever seen 2 people be resuscitated. One of them was a teenage boy and the other was years and years later, and it was a middle-aged, tough as nails, biker type guy. Neither of them were particularly religious or had any kind of spiritual affiliation, but what was striking to her was that both of them had the same reaction to being brought back, and that was how they both said something along the lines of, "Why'd they do that? I was so peaceful." See what I mean? A little eerie, but also oddly comforting. Aside from that women who went to the gates of hell, a lot of people I've talked about today have had fairly calming experiences wherever they went during their near-death experience, and I think that that's something that can make us all feel a little bit better about what sits beyond us in the unknown.